father, I will just call him Mr. Cowley, because he was no joke. You know that he was ready to go. So he shows up at the Rhinos game for his sons, but he wears his Wigan jersey. And I saw him in the crowd, and I pointed and I like waved for him to come up. I was doing the commentary for that game. Came up and we took a picture together. But I was like, oh, you're a Wigan guy. And he's like, yeah, those are my sons. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense then. And I was like, well, you're not wearing a Rhinos shirt, because he wasn't wearing it. He's like, I will never put on a Rhino shirt. It doesn't matter. So he was wearing his Wigan shirt.
Well, that's it. The Atlanta Rhinos badge is very similar, apart from the Rhino is
Yes.
red, compared to the
Yes.
Leeds Rhinos badge, isn't it? It's basically the same badge with a different coloured rhino.
That's
So
it.
I can totally buy into that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. So he was diehard to wear his Wigan jersey, but he was cheering for his Atlanta Rhinos. So it was kind of funny. But yeah, I tell you what, it was so much. It was great to see those games. The only teams I didn't get to see in person this year, I got to watch them obviously streaming, was the Jacksonville Axemen and the Copperheads. Next year, I'm going to try to get to. Well, I'm going to get to every single team and watch them. I got to, I got to see all the other teams in the north and Atlanta and Tampa in the south. The socials are good afterwards. Everybody getting together and having a great time.
Of
When
course,
you look
yeah.
at Jacksonville, because we didn't talk about them. From a standpoint of players in the South, my favorite player that I've seen, as far as he just does what he like. He's a great hooker. But Lachlan Bristow for the Jacksonville Axemen, like watching all those games and seeing him, he disappears when he needs to. Like he plays the role and he's a quiet player, and then when he needs to, he picks up the ball and he just powers through and does what he needs to do to continue to keep his team on the front foot. I think he is a hell of a player. I think he's going to be instrumental in this game. I think he's going to be one of the keys to the game for Jacksonville. And he's been one of those players in the South. David Washington's another one down there that's been amazing. But yeah, he's been one of those players in the South that at this point, I think that he's one of the best in the league.
That leads us neatly into the previewing the grand final, then the championship game between the Axemen and the Kings. So you've sort of built this up a little bit as kind of the forward pack of the Axemen against the backs of the Kings, to an extent. So how do you see this game going? Who do you think is going to be the key men? You've mentioned a couple just there already, and what do you think the final outcome's going to be?
I tell you what, so I'm going to be talking to Coach Ruckerson and Coach Richardson. Hopefully, get both of them on the show as a preview before. I'm very interested to see what they say. I'm sure they're not going to give anything away, but I'm interested to see what they expect out of the other side, to see what they're doing. But so Jacksonville, to me, they emulate their coaches, but Rucco's not a little guy. Like Coach Ruckerson's not a little guy. He
No.
played professionally in Canberra, and he played obviously in Salford,
Yeah.
North Sydney. So he's got that background, that pedigree, and you can tell that he does play with the strengths, but he plays his style. He plays that Aussie style, as far as like what he does. But he has a pack that is not just big, but like they're big, but they're stout, and they just wear teams down, especially in that Florida sunshine. I mean, it's hot. Like I grew up in Florida. If you can grind a team down and then catch the outsides, you can really just exhaust them and just demoralize them. And they're really, really good at that. They can, I tease, I call them meter eaters, but like his guys in the middle, like it's not going to be crazy if they chew up 50, 60 meters almost every single series. If they, I'm not saying that they will, but I wouldn't be shocked if they did easily chew up over half the field, just simply because they fall forward, like they run hard, and they do a
With
great
the
job.
collision.
Yeah, they do. They absolutely do. And then once they do that, they have enough speed on the outside, and then of course Lachlan and being able to get the ball out wide. They have the ability to suck everybody in, and then basically once you suck them all in, find the outsides. Whereas on the other side of the ball, I look at Brooklyn, and it's to take nothing away from the backs of Jacksonville or the pack of Brooklyn. I don't think that either one of those are bad. Actually, I think they're really, really good, and that's just the way it is. But the back line of Brooklyn does the opposite, and then they're so fast and so speedy. They're powerful. I've seen those guys in action. They're not little. They're not fun to tackle out in the open field. And one-on-one tackling is not an easy skill to have. It's something that there's a reason why I'm talking to you on a pod and I'm not playing, is because I probably don't have very good open field tackling when it comes to one-on-one.
No, I was talking. My brother-in-law, who's American, they were over from the States last weekend, and he came to watch the Wigan game, and we were talking. He plays union, you see, and I was saying, like, why do you not in the summer try and play for a league team, and he says because my shoulders are too bust that I can't tackle in league. There's too much actual tackling that has to happen in league, whereas I can sort of run around as a half in union and not have to tackle too much.
Oh God, yeah. No, listen, I've played in the halves in union and scrum half as well, and there's nothing better than knowing that I can spend 80 minutes bossing people around without having to be accountable at all for tackling. So that's like the scrum half is the best defensive position in the world. But no, I mean it really is true. In trying to catch those guys, they're going to do the opposite. So instead of being able to pound down the middle and then spread the ball out wide like Jacksonville can do, they can spread the ball out wide immediately and stretch Jacksonville and then find those gaps back inside. They're not. I mean. They're just it doesn't matter whether you go to the right, whether you go to the left. It doesn't matter if you're dealing with the centers or the wings or the fullback. You can't take a break. Yeah, you will not be able to take a break with their back line, which will then allow the boys in the middle to be able to make some meters of their own. They do a good job. Brent he's put them together in the right way this year, and they have like kind of. They'll soak in and they'll let you chew up those yards because they know that they're just going to get the ball back and be able to attack you again. And so that's what they do really, really well. They do a great job of like holding you. They'll give you whatever distance you want, but as soon as they get the ball back, good luck. You're going to have to transition quickly, and you're going to have to be ready to go against their backs again. And those guys,
like the Axemen kind of have a big forward pack that can lay a good platform for their halves to work from, but Kings have a really good backline that can get them up the field really fast, so they can make fit territory. So I suppose, is the difference going to come down to the kind of creative players, and who do you think has the better 9-6-7 kind of in those from the two sides?
Oh boy, you're putting me on a spot now. That's just mean.
Well, I felt like you didn't want to say it, so I need to draw it out here, Nate.
Yeah, that's just damn. I've waited all year. I've been so good all year. Nobody's gotten me. To be perfectly honest with you, I think from a standpoint of a game changer, I want to say from a standpoint of Brooklyn, Samu Smith sitting in that fullback role I think he's young and he's dangerous and he's athletic and he could be that guy that he could wreak havoc on them. He was a pain in the ass for everybody to catch when they played down in Nova. He's very fast and he just makes one quick little adjustment and he cuts back in. And so he's the guy that can break open the game as far as that kind of stuff goes. Again, on the Jacksonville side, I mean, maybe the 9-6-7 in Jacksonville, I'd say they probably feel more comfortable together with each other just because, I mean, the games have all gone the way that they wanted it to. And that just kind of lends me to think like, they feel very, very comfortable in their game plan and how they deliver it. So maybe they have the advantage there as far as the 9-6-7. They've been tested, but not in a way that you can really define it yet. Where how that 9-6-7 is going to be, but they've got to feel good. They have done everything right this year.
That's the other thing that's intriguing about this game for me. You've got one side who've absolutely dominated and basically won every game and done so quite easily even in the playoff games. Whereas on the other side, you've got a team that have come through a much tougher conference with a lot more level opposition, like you were explaining at the top of the show. So do you think the battle-hardened nature of the Kings is going to be a benefit, or do you think the supreme confidence of the Axemen is going to overweigh that just because they're playing so well together?
I think what you just said about Brooklyn it has to happen because they're on the road. So because they're on the road in Jacksonville against a team that knows how to win a championship because they have before, I think that's going to be really, really big.
So they're going to have to try and make things a bit scrappy for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Jacksonville is going to feel very confident being at home, obviously, being in their heat. Like, it's hot in Brooklyn. I know it is. I mean, I was up there recently, and it's hot here in D.C. right now. It feels like somebody's laying a hot-ass blanket, like, on my face whenever I'm walking around during the day, like a wet one. But it's the heat in Jacksonville is different than the heat, throughout the North. So that is going to be a major, major factor. they're going to have to come in, and Brooklyn's going to have to feel like they've been battle tested. And if they do that, it'll go right down to the wire. If they don't, Jacksonville will feel like they'll get that confidence and they'll just run away. Like that's just, you can tell that's how they're playing. You cannot let them get that confidence. And you can't let them get that momentum, or they're going to be a very big problem for you. Meanwhile, Brooklyn is an attack. That back line has an ability to attack at any time, so they'll never be out of a game.
So a strong start is needed, but also from the Kings. But the Jacksonville Axemen need to not rest on the laurels if they get a couple of scores ahead either during the early stages of the game. It sounds like. Where can we watch it from around the rest of the world? Where can we follow this game?
So if you go to Jacksonville, I'm waiting to find out for sure about the league and what they're going to stream. But as far as from the standpoint of Jacksonville has iknowjax.com, their Facebook page, but you can just go to the Jacksonville Axemen Facebook page. Go ahead and friend them, go on there and like them. Obviously, you can go on the USA sites as well and check them out. But really, the Jacksonville, because they'll be hosting the Jacksonville Axemen Facebook page, go on, friend their page, and then they'll have the game streaming there. And then obviously, as more comes out, I'll put it out on social media and everything else for other places, and that's a big thing, so I think it'd be huge to have those people watching the game.
And what time does the game kick off in the States?
I believe it's a 6 p.m. kickoff. I meant to write that down right before we started here. I believe that's what time it is. That's the normal time that they start the games in Jacksonville.
So that'll be a late Saturday night for us, won't it?
It will. Now they'll probably be recording. Well, I said it probably will. They have in the past. They'll be recording it as well, so it'll go out on YouTube, and then obviously you'll be able to see it again on Facebook.
Or everyone once they're getting home from their trips down to Wembley, when they get back up north at 10, 11 o'clock at night, I've got something to tune into and watch.
Exactly. Well, yeah, you'll be just coming off that buzz, and then you'll want to just get that back to where you need so you can get a good night's sleep, so you can just watch that game as well.
Keep the party going, indeed. Okay, brilliant. So, before we move away from the grand final, I'm going to have to ask you, and I know you don't want to do it, but can you pick a winner for us? Who's going to win this game?
You're doing this before I talk to the coaches. You're putting me on the spot, and that's just a mean thing to do. Well, let me be political without being a politician, and I'll just say that I think if the home field advantage has always meant something to me in sport, so
yeah, and also the home field advantage just feels really significant because it's not. I know it's been hot in the north half of the States as well this summer, like it's been hot in England this summer, hotter than normal. But it's a little bit different, isn't it? And
it is. It's definitely different. It's really hard to explain. If you've never been here, I challenge you to come, even just try to run a mile in the heat of summer in Florida. I think
that's like us from up here going from having a really amazing hot summer in Manchester, but then getting a plane down to I don't know, the south of Spain or the north of Africa and played a game there. Basically.
Yes, get on the plane, go to Morocco. I've been there in the summer. Go to Morocco and hang out there for a little bit, and that's basically play a game of league in that. I think that's going to be huge. It's hard for me to pick against. This is almost impossible for me to pick. I'm going to be completely honest with you because I've seen them play and I've watched them, and I think that I think they absolutely have everything it takes to win. And I've also watched those Jacksonville games, and the home field advantage is a major player. It has to be in my mind. I guess if I'm going to tip somebody based on that alone, I would tip Jacksonville because they have the home field advantage and they don't have to travel. So that they sleep in their own bed and they practice on their own field and warm up on their own field, and they have that advantage. As far as the teams, if you put them in a neutral location. If you put them in a neutral location, the score would probably be 30-30 at the end of the game. I don't know that there's anything between the teams. Sure. So that's the political answer I just gave you. As much
next
as
year we want the grand final to be played in Maryland, don't we? In your home state.
So I actually would be 100% okay with that. If the teams hear me, they want to do that. Let me know.
I will. In the middle.
I'll arrange it. Actually, there's actually a phenomenal place here that would be amazing. The best rugby place to watch a game here in the States is actually at the Naval Academy, which is just outside of Washington, D.C. in Annapolis, Maryland. I actually went to the Navy versus Army rugby. Now, it's a union game, but I went and watched that earlier this year. There were probably 4,000 people in the stands to watch that game. They've got 2 rugby dedicated pitches. It's absolutely amazing. So I would love to see a game there one day. But that's got nothing to do
That's
with
for the
it.
future. Okay, so everyone, we know where to find the game to watch it. We know what to expect from the game and how exciting it's going to be. After the game, everyone probably will be able to pick up what happened following the game on your show on the Rugby League in America podcast. So do you want to talk